Welcome to the Master Series brought to you by New Calm, where we choose to spend time with experts in the fields of health, wellness, and lifestyle. And so welcome everybody. I see a bunch of repeat offenders. Tal, how are you? You're across the world, right? Excellent. Tim showing off his mustache and beard, rubbing in my face that I no longer have it because it was ugly. I have to say I couldn't do it. I tried for 3 weeks. All right, so today we have, I'm really excited about this. So we just started this series last week. We introduced you to Dr. Holloway last Thursday. Yesterday, Jim, my brother and CEO of the company, joined us for a long discussion. Today, we're going to talk about medicine. We're going to talk about energy. We're going to talk about the life of someone who's a very dedicated medical professional. He's got an unbelievably interesting practice out in Beverly Hills, and has spent his life helping people. And I've always been very impressed with Dr. Galitzer. I've seen him lecture many times. I've read both of his books, one of which you guys will recognize as A New Calm. That was Michael's inspiration. He co-wrote that with Larry Trivieri, but he's got a book that's much more impactful to me personally, called Outstanding Health. And it's worth the investment. It looks thick, but it's full of great information about health, detoxification, diet. It could be life-changing if you need it, for sure. But anyway, so today I want to introduce you to Dr. Michael Galitzer. He's been on our medical advisory board since I think 2012. It's been a long time. And he's been a personal friend of ours for as long, and that's even more important, right, than business relationships. And he's married to a very special person, Dr. Jan Ranicky, who's also a dear friend of the New Calm family and a special talent in her own right. So, Dr. Galitzer, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. On the line, we've got a group of our mastermind participants, and these folks are interested in using New Calm and helping us understand the consumer behavior and what triggers the inertia to use New Calm and develop a habit, and where the friction might be. And we're interested in what kind of learning and what kind of information is helpful in making informed decisions on health, wellness, stress management. So today, if we can, I'd like to start with how you got into the field of medicine, and then how you discovered energy medicine, which I think is a really curious topic. And demystifying that, I think, will go a long way on this call alone.
Sure, David, it's a pleasure, and hello, everybody. Glad to be on the call. I graduated med school and came out to LA and did an internship out here, went straight into emergency medicine. I was always fascinated with the ER, and I was, 25, 26, definitely wanted action, and got a lot of action. So I did ER in the old days when there were no trauma centers, and the traumas went to the nearest hospital. And it was, when you're in a community hospital, you're in charge of the whole place, the ER, the ICU, the CCU. And so I saw a lot of trauma. They used to call me Dr. Trauma there in North Hollywood. And we always used to say that the moon was always full in North Hollywood. So ER was great. There's nothing better than saving somebody's life, and you got to do that a lot in the emergency room with all sorts of, auto accidents, all sorts of overdoses and heart attacks. And it was really an exciting time. After 15 years of it, however, I got burnt out. I was board certified and looking for a change. The politics were a little gnarly in the ER, and, they would call me in after a committee meeting. Dr. Galitzer, you're doing a really good job, but you kept too many people in the CCU, coronary care unit, who didn't have insurance. So maybe you could do a little better next time. So I understood politics where hospital was first, and the doctors who served the hospital was second, and the patient was really third on the pecking list. It was unfortunate. So looking for a change, lots of 24-hour shifts, and came across a clinic in were close to where I was living that was looking for a doctor to do general practice in nutrition. So being an ER doc, I knew all about general practice, but didn't have a clue about nutrition. So I figured, well, I'd learn it. I was single and it was all convenient. And so I went to seminars, read books, listened to tapes at the time, and I got a nutritionist, started doing all these new blood tests that I really hadn't heard of before, and started putting people on supplements, and nobody got any better, David. And one of the people that, or persons that didn't get better, was my best friend at the time. And in running new blood tests, these tests, found out I had mercury toxicity from his silver fillings. So I heard the expert talk. He was Hal Huggins. He was a dentist from Colorado. And went up to Hal after the lecture and asked him who I could refer to locally as a dentist to remove the fillings. Now, in those days, you would do like an allergy test, like a food allergy test, except this was a metal allergy test, trying to find out which metals were compatible with the patient's blood to put back into his teeth. Well, so I sent my friend Bill to the dentist, and he came back from this dentist and said, well, this dentist had this machine that he was, and he was measuring my skin resistance, and he had all these vials for the different metals. And he was able to tell me what metals were compatible with my body and what metals were not compatible with my body. And they exactly matched the blood tests. So I said, if you can figure this out without blood, I want to meet this guy. Met the dentist. He told me that there was people from Europe who were giving their first seminar, and this was December of 1986. So it was a while back. Took the seminar, and I've been doing it ever since. It's an amazing system, electroacupuncture, working on the principle of a galvanic skin response, kind of like a lie detector. You lie in a lie detector machine, the skin resistance changes. And here, if you put a formula or an antibiotic or a medication or an herb or a homeopathic or a food in circuit with the patient, you can measure whether or not the skin resistance changes. And if the skin resistance does change, then you know that substance is not good for the person. So it's an amazing way to really, in medicine, we frequently use our heads. You got this, take this. You got that, take that. Whether it be a medication, an antidepressant, a blood pressure medicine, an antibiotic, an herb, a homeopathic. But this gets your head out of the circuit. Instead of trying to think about what a patient needs, you're basically asking the patient, what do you need? What works and what doesn't cause side effects? What's effective and what's tolerated? So it's an amazing system. Again, you can adapt it to hormones. You can adapt it to anything as long as you have a vial to test with that person. You can just about test anything. And it really is more than personalized medicine. It's really precision medicine because you're exactly giving the person what they need at that time. And things do change over time. So that was my first foray to what I call energy medicine. I used to have on my card that I was doing anti-aging medicine, but it's really about energy medicine because number one, health is energy. And number two, there's an energetic level to your body that we look at. So most of medicine is really physical and chemical, right? We do x-rays, CAT scans, MRIs, looking at the structure of mammograms, looking at the structure of your body. We do blood tests, looking at the chemical level of your body. But the electrical level or the energetic level correlates more to how people feel. So now medicine does electrical medicine, and with the cardiologist doing the EKG, looking at the electrical heart, and really the electrical impulse precedes the physical heartbeat. A neurologist will do an EEG or EMG, looking at the electrical brain or neuromuscle. But just like there's an electrical heart and electrical brain, there's an electrical liver, kidneys, pancreas, adrenals, thyroid. So I tell my patients that your body's this orchestra in which these glands and organs are instruments in that orchestra. Some are sluggish and out of tune, which you cannot see on a blood test. You can see an inflamed liver, but you can't see a sluggish liver. And some are strong and in tune. And if we can get everything that's sluggish strong, then the orchestra plays better music. And the other concept are toxins. In the ER, we were concerned about life-threatening toxins, overdose of sleeping pills, carbon monoxide poisoning, chemical spills, oil spills. This medicine says there's toxins in the air, water, food. There's pesticides, heavy metals, chemicals of all sorts. Certain foods can be toxic to an individual. A lot of people have problems with gluten. And so if we can reduce the toxicity at the same time that we strengthen the orchestra, people get a whole lot better. And so that's really the hallmark of what I try to convey to patients, that we're looking at the electrical U, which correlates more to how you feel. And really everybody, these days complains about lack of energy or not having enough energy that they used to have. And we can see this on the electrical level. And so one of the tests that I've used over time is heart rate variability. And heart rate variability looks at what's called the autonomic nervous system. The automatic nervous system, the subconscious nervous system, the system that controls things you don't have to think about, your next breath, your next heartbeat, your blood pressure. And there are two parts of this nervous system, the sympathetic part, which is your performance part. Say, how fast did you run the 100-yard dash? And the parasympathetic, which is relaxation recovery. How long did it take for you to get your breath back? And of the two, the parasympathetic is much more important. Everybody's on the go too much, and which is why I think this is kind of like a global reset here and reboot with COVID. And people just don't relax. People are just too concerned with performance and working too much. And so it's the sympathetic nervous system that's usually too strong, and the parasympathetic nervous system is too weak. And so heart rate variability looks at how often each beat is a little different from each other beat. So if you had a pulse of 60, say, you'd think, well, each beat is 1 second. But if each beat was 1 second, then there is no variability, and the heart rate variability tracing looks like a straight line across. But if one beat is 1 second, the next beat is 0.98 seconds in length, and the next beat is 102, that's variability. And the more each beat is different in length from the preceding beat, the greater the heart rate variability. And on a graph, you'll see these peaks and valleys. The healthier the parasympathetic nervous system is, and the healthier the person is. And so that seems to be a very, very, very important test to run on every patient. There's a lot of information on heart rate variability. It's accepted in the medical literature. And the beauty of NewCom, which I was introduced to by my wife, I think it was around 2012 or 14, is that it strengthens the parasympathetic nervous system. And that is huge. The parasympathetic nervous system allows one to sleep better, allows one to recover better from any kind of a stressor. And I found that the NewCom device is really incredibly powerful and important with a lot of my patients. So needless to say, when I test patients, heart rate variability, I would say that 90% 90 to 95% have a negative reading on the parasympathetic nervous system. And so therefore, you can argue, since I'm looking at people that are very holistically motivated here in LA, that are very in tune with their lifestyle and very in tune with a lot of the things that we want to do to improve our health. And these people still have, 95% of them still have negative readings on the parasympathetic nervous system. So you can imagine that NewCom not only would help these people, but you can imagine all the people out who don't come to see me, who aren't taking care of their bodies. They too are going to have a negative parasympathetic nervous system if you were to do heart rate variability on them. So I would say the bottom line is that NewCom really helps everybody, because NewCom stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, and that is so key. There's a lot of talk about right now with COVID and the need to strengthen the immune system. I've always kind of looked at the immune system as number 3, and that more important than the immune system is the hormonal system, the thyroid, the adrenals, insulin levels, and more important than the hormonal system is the autonomic nervous system. I think that's at the top of the pecking pole, because it can make changes in seconds. The hormonal system is really more about hours and days. And I think the immune system actually is actually third in line in the pecking order. And so when you're seeing these people that are having, that are getting COVID infections, where their body overreacts and they get into trouble and need to be on a ventilator, I really believe it's an aberrant or an abnormal endocrine and parasympathetic autonomic nervous system that allows these kind of things to occur, that overreaction by the immune system. So that's a quick foray into energy medicine, autonomic nervous system, heart rate variability, and UCOM. And again, I find it extremely valuable because the ability to strengthen the parasympathetic nervous system may be the key to getting people to optimal health.
So, Michael, in lieu of us rushing to your office and going through treatment, say I show up, I'm 51 years old, and that's actually my age, and I'm complaining of not chronic fatigue, but a lack of energy, and I'm restless at night. I'm guessing that's probably pretty common phenomenon for many people my age. What would you suggest? How would you take me through an analysis, and then what can I do on a personal level to understand when I'm making improvements and really achieve that outstanding health I'm looking for and longevity?
Sure. So again, going back to heart rate variability, when we have these negative readings on the parasympathetic nervous system, the two organs that most closely correspond to the weakness in the parasympathetic nervous system are the liver and the adrenals. Now, I'm not talking about an inflamed liver that you can see elevated liver enzymes on a blood test. I'm talking about a sluggish liver. And I'm also talking about adrenal weakness. So, if we had the analogy of quickly of the body, think of the heart as the engine to the car, thyroid is the fuel injection system, and the adrenals are the gas pedal. And so looking at the adrenals, adrenal fatigue is really hugely, very, very common in our society. The adrenals are the first organ affected by stress, mental stress, emotional stress, nutritional stress, i.e., say a gluten allergy, environmental stress, electromagnetic stress, physical stress, hurt at the gym or have surgery, or infectious stress, bacteria, virus, yeast infections. So whenever there's a stressor, or when there's several stressors occurring at the same time, the adrenals continue to secrete stress hormones. At some point, the adrenals get tired. Your ability to handle stress goes down. Stress becomes a threat as opposed to a challenge. You can't differentiate big stress from little stress. You overreact to little things. And you can even get anxiety. Now, a lot of people think that anxiety starts up on top. But if you think of your brain as having a conversation with your adrenals in the morning, and your brain says to your adrenals, got a lot on my plate today, and I need you, adrenals, to secrete these hormones to get me through the day. And the adrenals say, well, I'm tapped out. I got nothing to give you. Well, you're going to get anxious because you don't have the resources to meet the demands of the day. So frequently, anxiety can be a component to adrenal fatigue. And again, energy. When one complains of fatigue, David, the adrenals are always tired. So again, the adrenals being one of the key factors in strengthening the autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system. And when I say about the adrenals, I mean the outer adrenals, the adrenal cortex. The inner adrenals are really about adrenaline, which is kind of like a fireman. And so adrenal fatigue is huge. Now, let's look at the liver. The liver is the major organ that has to process the foods. And the liver is also the major organ that has to help clean the body. We call it a drainage organ. The liver, the lymph, and the kidneys are the drainage organs. And so the liver is like the general of the body. When the liver is sluggish and not balanced, people have a hard time making decisions. The liver controls the eyes. Migraines are because the liver is imbalanced. And in Chinese medicine, there's 12 major organ systems or meridians through which energy flows. So each of the 12 organ systems, which have 2 hours of the organ clock, the 24-hour clock, where their energy is the maximal. So liver time is between 1 and 3 in the morning. So when you hear that I can't fall asleep, or I always wake up between 1 and 3, you really know that the liver is imbalanced. Now, there's some people that wake up between 1 and 3 and can go back to sleep. There are other people that wake up between 1 and 3 and with a buzz, as if they just had caffeine. And what those people have is adrenal fatigue on top of a liver imbalance. So basically what happens is that even though we're sleeping, the cells are still need sugar. And it's the job of cortisol, the adrenal hormone, to tell the liver to release sugar during the night. Well, if cortisol is insufficient while we're sleeping, the body still needs the sugar, and it turns to the inner adrenal, which secretes adrenaline. Adrenaline wakes up everything. The liver secretes sugar, and you wake up with a buzz. So frequently when you hear people say, well, I wake up just like I just had a cup of coffee at like 2 or 3 in the morning, you know that their adrenals are fatigued and their livers are related. And so you can really tell a lot by just hearing some of these symptoms that people have. So again, what I see in my practice, David, is that most people have high levels of toxicity. You know, I used to say that if you can get people better in LA, you can get people better anywhere, due to the noise, the pollution, and and everything else that goes on here in the city. So high levels of toxicity, and also a hormonal system that's suboptimal, i.e., certainly the adrenals are not working nearly as efficiently as they should. And again, very hard to measure adrenal fatigue. Some people recommend an 8 a.m. Blood cortisol level, but if somebody comes at you at a needle first thing in the morning, your cortisol level is going to go up. So probably the best way to measure that outside of the testing that I do and the heart rate variability would be a saliva test, where you're looking at saliva 8 a.m., noon, 4 p.m., 8 p.m., midnight, and 4 a.m. to get a kind of a circadian rhythm to cortisol and DHEA, which are the 2 main adrenal cortex hormones. So in a nutshell, people who don't feel well have high levels of toxicity. And the first thing we want to do is we call drainage, to stimulate the liver, the kidneys, and the lymph. And the second thing we want to do is balance the hormonal system. And so if we look at getting toxins out, what can a person do, which was part of your original question, to help stimulate drainage, short of coming to see me? Well, juicing a lemon in the morning. For the liver, take a lemon, cut it in half, squeeze the juice out of both halves, pour it into 6 to 8 ounces of water, drink that down. Liver vegetables, carrots, beets, zucchini, squash, watercress, artichoke. You can juice them, eat them raw. I find that juicing greens very, very helpful. So green juice every day. There's supplements for the liver and acetylcysteine. I think vitamin C is very helpful. We get a lot of intravenous vitamin C, which helps both the liver and the adrenals. In our office, we run that over 25,000 milligrams over about an hour in an IV. Glutathione, a very important supplement. You can give it intravenously, you can inject it into muscularly, you can take it orally. So there's a lot of really good supplements for the liver. Kidneys are helped by lots of good water. Water is really, really important, and most people don't drink enough water. There's all sorts of excuses. They don't want to go to the bathroom, or they wake up in the middle of the night and have to go to the bathroom, drink water during the day. Women sometimes don't want to, go to the bathroom a lot, and I find that most people don't drink enough water. And actually, some people feel that one of the major causes of fatigue is not drinking enough water. So water becomes really, really important. Parsley, pomegranate, and asparagus are great kidney foods. Horsetail tea is another kidney tea, or equisetum tea. So the kidneys are helped by water and asparagus, parsley, and pomegranate. The lymph is helped by avoiding dairy. Anything from the cow seems to really obstruct the lymphatic system. Deep breathing, very helpful for the lymphatics. And exercise, bouncing, trampoline, rebounder, chi machine. We have a sonics, a vibrational machine in the office, very, very helpful for the lymphatic system. Traditional medicine pays very little attention to the lymph, except, when they look for lymph nodes, if the person has breast cancer or Hodgkin's disease or lymphoma. But other than that, there's very little attention paid to the lymphatic system. And again, one of the values of exercise and deep breathing is that it moves the lymphatics through your body. So getting toxins out of the body through the liver, lymph, kidney system, supporting those organs, as we talked about. Acupuncture, very, very helpful, I think, for a lot of people to help stimulate the liver and the kidneys. And strengthen the adrenals. Now, the adrenals, there's all sorts of, you can give adrenal hormones like DHEA, very helpful. Giant redwood is an herb that helps the adrenals. Licorice helps the adrenals. Salt, a lot of people don't have enough salt in their diet. Himalayan salt, I think, is very, very helpful. And so, but I think the bottom line on the adrenals is how do you reduce the stress in your life? try to identify the stressors, and also, again, back to the parasympathetic nervous system and UCOM, the ability to relax and the ability to go within, i.e. also like in meditation, really is just a great tool that UCOM is to go deep, relax, stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, and also reduce the stresses in your life, which ultimately has to help your adrenal glands.
So Michael, that was great. There's a lot of information there. I'm glad we're recording this. Can you give some clues into how you stay so healthy? I know we just celebrated your birthday together last month, and you're in remarkably good health. What's your secret? What's your recipe around exercise, sleep, diet?
Well, I do all the things that I just talked about in terms of, juicing lemons, drinking highly enriched oxygenated water, exercise every day. I do the bicycle here at home every day, deep breathing, NewCom, and I take, I've created formulas that are marketed to health professionals, also available online, for liver, lymph, kidney drainage, for adrenal support. So, I kind of, I'd say I walk my talk, but I'm fully engaged. I think that, in your practice, you really, you can't be, if you're having a longevity, energy medicine, anti-aging practice, you got to kind of walk your talk. You got to look healthy. And, I've been blessed to never really have a weight challenge in my life. I've always exercised. I think that's very protective. And I think that if you eat every day, you should exercise every day. And so I feel that, that's really, David, one of the hardest things I find is to motivate people. First of all, medicine doesn't really have the tools to motivate people to change and show them how to change, as a rule, traditional medicine. And I find that one of the hardest things for me is to motivate people to exercise. When I started this practice about 33 years ago, people were in their 20s and 30s and 40s. And now these people have aged and they're more like in their 50s, 60s, 70s. And so getting these people to exercise and motivating these people to exercise, I find one of the more difficult things. People are very happy to eat healthy, very happy to do all the things that they're supposed to do, but they're not really wanting to exercise. And, they'll say, well, I walk the dog. And so I find that to be one of the harder things to do, is to continually get and motivate people to exercise. And there's all sorts of reasons, and one of the big reasons, which I find to be why this COVID thing is like a global reset or reboot, is that people say, well, I don't have time to exercise. I wake up early, I go to work, I come back late, and, it just can't work that way. I'm too tired in the morning, I'm too tired at night, there's not enough time. And, I think that people's perception of time, that time's running out, that, there's always something to do, I think maybe one of the more important things that interferes with their health. And so getting people to exercise is really key. Again, you got to move your body. And if you don't move your body, you can't be as healthy as you should be. Now, there's fitness and there's health. And so, people that work out at the gym, they're convinced that they're healthy because they're fit. I disagree. I think that a lot of people who do work out can be healthier. And again, because of, toxicity being high, like Magic Johnson at the peak of his career, he had HIV. He was certainly fit, but he wasn't that healthy. And I see that with a lot of people that work out. I see that with, certain tennis players, professional tennis players. They're very fit, but they're not as healthy as you can be. So I think the key, again, to health is how do you keep your parasympathetic nervous system healthy? How do you keep your liver healthy? How do you keep your adrenals healthy? And when I mean healthy, I mean optimal. I mean, you want a liver that's processing the food. You want to eat the right food. Now, again, eating organic is key, but that doesn't get toxins out of the body. So you've really got to do herbal formulas, homeopathic formulas, acupuncture, juicing, all those kind of things to help get the toxins, infrared sauna. And again, one of the interesting things that you hear about is people come in and go, well, I need to detox. And so they, you know, they do these fasts, they do all these things, and they get sick. And so the reason being is that detox is really about pulling toxins out of the tissues. But once they get out of the tissues, they got to go through the lymph, liver, kidney system. Now, if those drainage organs are clogged, then there's nowhere for the toxins to go, and people feel tired and weak and sick. And so you always have to do drainage first before you do detox, like chelation or infrared saunas, those kind of things, colonics. All those detox things need to occur after one does liver, lymph, kidney drainage. To do the drainage first, you know, it's like having a bowel movement on a toilet that won't flush. There's nowhere for this junk to go. So drainage first, detox second, while you're supporting the hormonal system and while you're doing things like NUCOM to support the parasympathetic nervous system.
May I ask a personal question, Michael? How long do you want to live? What's your personal goal for life expectancy?
I'd say definitely 100 years old. But I think the key is that, you know, there's all these things out there for longevity. I mean, there's so much out there right now. There's, again, drainage, there's detoxification, there's hormonal balance, there's bioidentical hormone, there's peptides, both oral and injectable. There's supplements to increase mitochondrial function. There's genetics that's coming down the pike. There's stem cells, there are exosomes. And all these things are useful, David. But I think that the real key, you can't get there if you've got a fear of death. And I see this every day. And I see this a lot right now with people, you know, with this current health challenge where, you know, people are afraid to come to my office because they think they're going to get COVID. And then they think they're going to be hospitalized, and then they think they could be on a ventilator, in which they think they could die. And so I think that if you continue to have this fear of death, no matter what you do, I'm not quite sure you can get to where you really want to get in terms of longevity. I see this with cancer patients. You know, there's a global fear of cancer, that if you have symptoms that don't go away after a week, you think you have cancer. If your pain doesn't go away after a week, you think you have cancer. So I think that, you know, fear of getting this virus, fear of getting cancer, and it's a global fear. I think that massively interferes with this quest for longevity. And I think that getting over those fears are really key, not only for me, but for society as a whole, for the whole world. And I think this health virus challenge that's going on right now is really indicative of how scared people really are. And I think the media is irresponsible. The media should certainly be telling people how to strengthen their immune system, or what can you do to stay healthy, as opposed to staying away from people. You know, I'm not sure that's the answer, and I'm not sure it's even the short-term answer. But in any event, it is the answer right now. But the bigger question is getting over your fear of death is really, really key to a long, healthy life.
And one last question, Michael. We'll open up to the team here. I could talk to you for hours. I love this stuff. What are you excited about in terms of energy medicine, or any kind of new tech or new thought processes that are coming down that you're learning on your journey as for continuous improvement education? What are you most excited about?
You know, I'm really excited about everything that's needed to feel great energetically wise. Having energy. I think energy is the key. And again, we talked about the need to get toxins out, the need to strengthen the hormonal system, the need for parasympathetic balance using NUCOM and liver and adrenal function. I'm very excited about peptides. Peptides are if a hormone is a large group of amino acids, peptides are smaller groups of amino acids. And peptides, I think, are very, very important, especially with this current virus challenge. I think something like thymosin alpha-1, which is a peptide to stimulate your immune system, thymosin beta-4, which is a peptide that prevents maybe some of this fibrotic reactions that people are having in their lungs secondary to this virus, PPC for GI function and also for healing injuries. Peptides are very, very exciting, and I think the future really moves into stem cells, exosomes. Tony Robbins did a great podcast yesterday where we had a couple of doctors talking about placental stem cells that are now being investigated with an IND with the FDA to help stimulate the immune cells, the thymus, the T cells, the natural killer cells. So I think stem cells are definitely the future. I think the powers to be are not excited about the use of placental stem cells, but I think they're really, really important. I think, and probably genetics at some point will be the use of genetics. But again, with these stem cells, and they will be perfected, David. There's no doubt that you'll be able to, at one point, introduce to the body perfectly matched stem cells from, whether not from your own source, but maybe placental cells. But I think the key is, how do you optimize the body to both receive the stem cells and to utilize the stem cells? And that's kind of where my research is going. It's that, I've seen too many people who've gotten stem cells. It didn't work. They got worse because they were toxic and they were not hormonally balanced and their nervous system was not right. So if you can get that person in that perfect state, I do think that stem cells in the future can be very valuable. Now, obviously, you're going to have to do the right studies. And, it's funny, while they're really coming down on doctors who use it, and unfortunately, I can't use that at the present time, their stem cells are being researched at numerous medical centers in the country. So long term, I'm sure this will be a positive. Short term, it's probably not there yet. But I see that as the key. How do you reduce the toxicity, optimize hormone levels, balance the autonomic nervous system, and then use stem cells to further enhance a person's health?
Excellent. I'm encouraged. I'm halfway to 100. I'm going to beat you.
All right. I'm up for the challenge.
So we have several questions. Thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate your time today. Got a question from Pablo. How can NuCalm help with compound migraines?
Pablo, well, again, migraines are always due to the liver, and the liver is essential for the health of the parasympathetic nervous system. So again, as we talked about with migraines, I think you want to look at food allergies. I think you want to look at leaky gut, which is the small intestine. And so gluten being a major issue with leaky gut. Basically, so gluten causes increased intestinal permeability in the small intestine, the area around the belly button. Foods that are only partially digested and toxins are able to get through the small intestine, and they all drain to the liver. The liver gets overloaded. So you've got to treat the leaky gut. You've got to identify the trigger foods, gluten, say, dairy, frequently. And then if you can, get the liver balanced with lemon water, liver supplements, acupuncture, and again, NuCalm with its ability to strengthen the parasympathetic nervous system, of which the liver is a key component, that combination should be very successful. It isn't as hard as you think, and I think if you can do all those things, you can certainly get rid of these migraines.
Michael, it's a great, Pablo, thanks for the question. We've gotten a lot of feedback about that. What if you're experiencing a migraine? Would NuCalm be useful during acute response, or maybe not?
I think with an acute migraine, I think you've got to take the medication, whatever medications that are prescribed, because I think that it's funny that people will, given the movement towards pleasure or away from pain, people always opt for moving away from pain. So acutely, I think I take the medication, whether it be Maxalt or aspirin or Advil. But long-term, to prevent it, the key to prevention is what we just talked about in terms of liver health, hormonal health, GI health, and NuCalm.
Excellent. Got a question from Tal about regular saunas, probably from the detox and health and balance. Is that something you recommend?
Right. Great question. Infrared saunas, I think, are really, really important. You know, a lot of people buy them for their home. A lot of people can go to get saunas. But again, sauna is a level, represents detoxification. So you want to do liver, lymph, kidney drainage, as we talked about earlier, before you get into the sauna. And I think, you know, 2 or 3 times a week is great. Once the drain is unclogged through liver, lymph, kidney drainage, then infrared saunas become even more useful and valuable.
We have a question from Madhu about any help with heavy metal toxicity.
Heavy metals. Well, you know, again, let's remember that heavy metals go out through the kidneys almost always, some through the gut, but my experience has been that you've got to really kind of do kidney drainage first before you know, deal with the heavy metal issue. And so there are herbs, there are homeopathics, there's acupuncture. Kidney 3 is an acupuncture point by the ankle bone on the big toe side. You can go straight between the ankle bone to the Achilles tendon. You'll fall into a hole halfway. And if you rub that, you can do acupressure to kidney 3 or acupuncture to kidney 3. It's a major point. So kidney drainage, we've talked about herbs, homeopathics, asparagus, parsley, pomegranate, great water. What I find is that mercury toxicity is key, is maybe the most important heavy metal, and frequently from the silver fillings. Initially, you want to do selenium to neutralize the mercury. Once the person is hormonally balanced and reduce the toxicity to a certain extent, you can have that person go see a biological dentist and have them take the fillings out quadrant by quadrant, maybe 1 month apart, quadrant by quadrant, where you take chlorella, maybe 5 tablets before each, the day before and the day of the mercury filling removal to block any mercury that may get into the gut. The biological dentists really use drainage systems, rubber dams, so they're the ideal person to do. But you want to do it when you're strong. You don't want to take the fillings out all at once. And then you can follow, you know, you can then do follow-up after all the fillings are out by further strengthening the kidneys with kidney drainage, kidney formulas, acupuncture. And glutathione can help pull mercury out. Another thing is that people get these scans, MRIs for the breast with contrast, and gadolinium is like a heavy metal. So after one of those scans using gadolinium as a heavy metal for the contrast agent, you certainly want to keep the kidneys going too. So again, kidney drainage, detox the heavy metals. First, you've got to do kidney drainage. And secondly, you always want to support the kidneys while you're doing these procedures, especially with the mercury fillings.
Hey, Michael, can you share the experience you had with the gentleman or the patient who was getting Korean radio?
Oh yeah.
Years.
Right. Great question. So that's another issue with mercury fillings. And so I just started, right? I just started getting into this energy medicine. I think it's 1987. And this guy comes in, his first name is Arnie, and he says to me, he says, I'm hearing radio stations in my head, music stations in my head, and I can't sleep. I got to go into my trailer and sleep by the beach. So I said, oh God, another crazy. I just got out of the ER and here I got another person like that. I didn't have a clue what was going on. Well, what was going on is he had a mouthful of mercury fillings. So in addition to the mercury being a heavy metal and toxic to the body, in the presence of saliva, mercury causes electrical currents. And those electrical currents can be increased through cell phones, sitting in front of computers. And so basically he was creating so many, and they override the brain. He was creating so many electrical currents in his mouth that he was basically tuning in to radio frequencies, radio stations, and that's why he was hearing the music. So when we took the fillings out, the music stopped, and Arnie was a happy camper. So again, mercury is really 2 major things. It's a toxin directly affecting the hormonal system, very close to the thyroid gland, so a lot of thyroid issues are due to mercury fillings. Kidneys excrete it, excrete the mercury, so it can affect the kidneys, can affect the entire hormonal system, and can also cause electrical currents that in our culture get amplified by Wi-Fi, computers, cell phones, 4G, 5G. So it's a huge issue, huge issue.
Michael, just out of curiosity, how did you get to that determination? I mean, the first thing you said was, uh-oh, another crazy person. I thought I left this in the ER. That's not...
Well, I do, one of the things that, as a doctor, you always say, open your mouth and stick out your tongue and go, that's fairly useless in terms of, and people gag, and, there's a little trick that if you just put the tongue depressor on the front of the tongue, as opposed to the back of the tongue, prevent the gag. But, when you do that on a physical exam and you see a mouthful of mercury fillings, and then we, again, I was doing that electrodermal testing that I referred to earlier, it was obvious that he had mercury toxicity. So, again, my mentor at the time was, guiding me through this process. It was, the beginning of my career there. And so he picked it up, I picked it up, and it was obvious that visibly he had a whole mouthful of mercury fillings. And we were pretty hip to that. This is 1987. We were hip to that. We were hip to vaccinations in those days. And here in LA, I got to tell you that trying to talk to people about energy medicine and toxicity in 1987 was a challenge. Most people were not there yet.
I know what you mean. Bring Newcomb back 10 years and it was the same thing. Just vacant stares. A few more questions. We'll let you go. I like these stories. This is from Justin. You mentioned oxygen-rich water. Do you have a particular filter device to help oxygenate home drinking water?
There's a company in Santa Barbara called Ophora, O-P-H-O-R-A. Most water is 2 parts per million of oxygen, and the water that we have a cooler or a dispenser in the office that connects to the bathroom. Also have one here at home, and that has 10 parts per million of oxygen. And Ophora actually bottles water in glass jars that have 50 parts per million of oxygen. Elon Musk did his research and had the Ophora system installed in his house up in Northern California. So I would say that oxygenated water through the Ophora system is what I would recommend, and it's a system that if you can't afford I think it's around $5,000 for the unit. You can certainly buy it. It's available in bottles, in glass bottles. So OPHORA, oxygenated water, would be a great thing to do. And, there's a whole lot of research on water. This guy Pollack wrote this book on the 4th phase of water, because we think of water as either as a solid, ice, liquid, or vapor. But there's a gel state too. And it's funny, I heard a tape where, an ER doctor was talking, Dr. Cowan, C-O-W-A-N, who's a very interesting guy, by the way, be worth looking at his stuff. And Cowan said when he was an ER doc and somebody came in the ER with a cut, he didn't see any water on the floor. It's like there was a cut in the body. And the reason being is that water is really in the gel state within the cells of the body. And that's the 4th phase of water. So anything that you certainly look into this 4th phase of water, it's very interesting, because that's maybe how the greater the gel state, the healthier the person's going to be. And we talked about how to get healthy. So look at that, and also look at the Ophora system for highly oxygenated water.
Excellent. Another question here from Patrick. What products would you recommend if I want to start measuring HRV at home? Well, I think that, what I would certainly do would be to get a Newcomb system, if you don't already have one, Patrick, because I think that the Newcomb system is key. I think the Oura Ring, O-U-R-A, is a ring that connects to your, there's an app for your iPhone or for your whatever smartphone device you have. And the Oura Ring basically looks at heart rate variability at night. So you put the ring on at night, and it'll give you, it'll show you your heart rate variability while you're sleeping
which is kind of an interesting thing. You know, in medicine, we're always doing tests on people awake, but nobody seems to want to measure things while people are sleeping, i.e. body temperature, i.e. pulse rate, i.e. Heart rate variability. I think you could probably predict. I think the Aura company is working with the University of California at San Francisco to do a research study to see if they can predict who's going to get in trouble with this virus challenge using the Aura ring. So say if your body temperature starts changing at night, maybe that might be a way to assess that, you know, you're going to get a potential problem. But again, the Aura ring allows you to measure heart rate variability, body temperature, heart rate at night. And I think that might be a very valuable thing to see the positive effect of Mucob that you would do during the day, but it'll certainly have an effect on your heart rate variability at night while you're sleeping. And I think, you know, again, we're always measuring things during the day, but the ability to measure things like heart rate variability at night with the Aura ring is a real plus.
Thank you. Several more questions here. This is again from Justin. How are you thinking about the microbiome and gut health? Are there particular supplement probiotics you'd recommend?
You know, every year in alternative medicine or integrated medicine, there's a hot topic. There's a new supplement or, you know, a new thing. I think this last year was NAD. The year before was the microbiome. You know, I see a triangle. When I was being taught this stuff by the Germans, they said, look, the key is that most things start in the gut, and there's a liver, pancreas, intestinal triangle. And every part of that triangle can affect any other part. So the liver can affect the gut. The liver can affect the pancreas. The pancreas can affect the gut. Again, the liver is the major organ of detox. The liver processes the food. Pancreas creates digestive enzymes. The small intestine absorbs the food. The large intestine handles the waste products, reabsorbs the water. So I think that I don't pay any attention to how many billion organisms are in the capsule. I don't know who counted them. And I don't think that's really that important. I really think that the key to a healthy microbiome is eating organic and having liver, pancreas, intestinal health. So I want to look at those things as to, you know, maybe take, the pancreas is strongest in the morning and weakest at night, which is contrary to how most Americans eat. Most Americans don't eat a small breakfast and eat this huge dinner when where the pancreatic enzyme secretion is at the lowest at night. So I'd want to take a digestive enzyme at night. I would want to, you know, the herbs, homeopathics for the pancreas. So the ability to optimize pancreas, intestinal, and liver health will create a healthy microbiome once we know that you're eating organic. So I would tend to want to focus that way as opposed to which probiotic is the best.
What food should we avoid, Michael, in general, like food groups or you know, red meats? We hear different things all the time. What foods do you avoid today?
Well, you know, I'm kind of a Pisces, so I tend to, you know, I'm a Pisces, so I tend to eat a lot of fish. So I eat fish and I eat eggs. I don't eat red meat or chicken. I think if you're going to eat those things, you got to have organic. I don't think there's anything wrong with eating red meat, but I do think that you know, it's really about acidity and alkalinity. And so, if you're going to eat acidic foods, you've got to have a lot of alkaline vegetables. So you can't just have meat with rice and pasta. You've got to have meat with veggies. So I think that the real key is to create balance. You got to have protein. You want to eat organic red meat? I think that's fine. I don't personally eat that, or I don't eat really chicken, but I eat a lot of fish and eggs. In terms of foods that cause problems, gluten seems to be the #1 food. Dairy is probably #2. Corn is genetically modified, so is soy. So it's if you can find a non-genetically modified version of corn and soy, I think that would be okay. But I do think that most of the soy and corn is difficult for most people. So I'd say gluten. Eggs, some people have problems with eggs, but I think it's really gluten and dairy. If I had to pick 2 foods that don't work for most people, it'd be gluten and dairy. When I say dairy, I mean from the cow. A lot of people can tolerate goat A lot of people can tolerate sheep products, but cow products and gluten seem to be the major offenders.
What about
and again, sugar? Yeah, sugar. Yeah, sugar is obviously a huge issue because number one, it tastes good, but number two is it's inflammatory. It causes insulin secretion to increase, and which potentiates inflammation. So I'd say sugar obviously is rough. Soft drinks shouldn't be taken because they're too acidic, and 10 teaspoons of sugar in a regular Coca-Cola. So sugar would be a big one, but those would be the big ones.
Excellent. So 3 more quick questions and we'll break. So Walter asks, is there a medical directory of doctors with expertise in peptides? Are they published anywhere?
There is great question. There's a International Association of Peptides, IPS, International Peptide Society. It's peptidesociety.org. You can call them up and get that list, or go to their website, peptidesociety.org, and get the list of practitioners that are using peptides that are members. So it would probably be your best bet for peptides.
Excellent. And then Madhu has a question. Any thoughts on hormone balancing for menopause?
Right. Yeah. Well, I was in Suzanne Summers' first book, The Sexy Years, is written in 2004. And being in that book really was, in the beginning, was overwhelmed with menopausal women. And so I'm a huge believer in hormones, bioidentical hormones for women. Again, I find that if you're doing these things like strengthening the adrenals, strengthening the liver, reducing toxicity, that hormones have a definite anti-aging effect. I don't feel that they cause cancer. Again, healthy lifestyle with all the things that we talked about on this podcast, I find that hormones have an anti-aging effect. The interesting thing is that Maria Shriver is one of those people that has been leading this Alzheimer's crusade. And she said that it's interesting that 2/3 of women two-thirds of the people with Alzheimer's are women. And when I started doing this in 2000, I was doing it before, but when the book came out in 2004, the office was flooded with women really aged 50 to 60 that were really perimenopausal, having hot flashes, having night sweats, and couldn't sleep. And so you can't tell me that giving hormones and helping women sleep isn't a huge benefit for their health. But more importantly, 15 years later now, 2020, those 50-year-olds are 65. Those 60-year-olds are 75. And they're still taking the hormones. And they're not getting into trouble with Alzheimer's. So I think there's a direct connection with healthy lifestyle and bioidentical hormones, and especially estrogen, in the prevention of Alzheimer's.
Excellent. Last question. Are there any devices that actually induce sleep, i.e., i.e. Nucalm 3.0? How would you help someone get to sleep if they're struggling to fall asleep at night?
Well, again, I think that you've got to, that's a huge issue. But we talked about liver, a balanced liver, and the ability to, if your liver's in balance, you're more likely to fall asleep easier. The question is, what is your head thinking about, as your head hits the pillow at night? And are you thinking about all the issues of the day? Are you thinking about how great the next day is going to be? Are you thinking about how great you can sleep tonight and what kind of dreams you can have? Are you focusing on your breathing? You can't think about your breathing and think about life at the same time, or the issues of the day. So I think you've really got to focus on your breathing while your head's on the pillow, and that really distract you from going to sleep. Distract you from thinking about things that would interfere with you going to sleep. I would certainly do Nucalm. My experience has been that you want to do Nucalm earlier in the day, before 7 o'clock at night. And again, that's about maintaining your parasympathetic nervous system, which is really the key system when you're sleeping. So the stronger your parasympathetic nervous system is, the more balanced your adrenals are, the more balanced your liver is, the more likely you are to have a restful sleep. Now, I personally take melatonin. I think melatonin is great. I urge people to take melatonin, whether or not it helps them sleep or not, because it has so many powerful effects on the body as an antioxidant. It's just very helpful. I think magnesium is helpful to take before you go to sleep. Magnesium threonate seems to help balance the brain, threonate. So I would say magnesium, melatonin, focusing on your breathing, doing NewCom early in the day all should help. And again, balancing your liver and your adrenals are probably the keys to healthful sleep too.
Excellent. Well, that's our list of questions. Hey, as a wrap, Michael, if you wouldn't mind, can you share the story you shared with me last night about the impact physically on the body of taking a walk in nature, specifically in a wooded nature?
Right. That was it was a physician that basically did a study where he had people take a hike in the woods and found that their natural killer cells, which are made by, the key cells that help against viruses and cancer, were markedly increased in people that took a hike in the woods. Then he took the people and they weren't working. So people said, well, you're not working. And so therefore, of course, your immune system is going to be better because you don't have to work. Well, he took the same people who didn't work and took them into the city and didn't have any effect. And what he found was that the trees secrete this aroma that, again, I can't remember the name of it, but it is that aroma that actually helps stimulate the natural killer cells. So people again said, come on. So he said, well, I'll prove it to you. So he took these medical students and he said, look, you guys are going to work real hard during the day. And then when you go to sleep, we're going to atomize this substance that the trees secrete. And sure enough, their natural killer cells went up. So basically the conclusion was taking a hike in the woods may be the most important thing that one can do for your immune health, or one of the more important things that one can do for your immune health. And it's funny because out here it's against the law to hike because of this virus situation. Can't go to the beach, can't hike, and so it's a little strange that we have to socially distance at the same time we can't do the things that obviously support our immune health. So seek out the trees if you can. Make sure nobody's watching, and good luck.
That's great advice. Well, thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate your time, your expertise, your talents, and your passion. You're a wonderful guy, great friend, and this was a great hour. I learned a lot.
All right, David. It's always great talking to you, and looking forward to our next encounter.
All right. Cheers, brother. Thank you. Thanks everybody for joining today. Take care.